It's a pleasure to meet all of you and share some of what we are doing in finance. And that too, this is at UB, it's hardcore finance. It's across, it's both enterprise and retail finance. And we'll be surprised to know the potential of language models, the potential of AI in transforming this space. Uh, Happy to share some of the experience that we've had building these solutions, bringing them up in the forefront. And this talk is largely going to be applications, not the deep dives into LLMs itself, but I think the world at this point in time has two areas to be conquered when it comes to language models and AI. One part of it is what largely being spoken, either creating fear or creating certain misconceptions is on the automation bit. As certain work is going to happen automation bit, where the big potential is going to happen is on opportunities that we have is on possibilities that we have never otherwise seen. So the current wave of AI, despite the hype and everything, what it is bringing onto the table is possibilities that we never ever thought existed, right? We could have never thought videos could be generated at scale and personalized at scale. We could not think that voice conversational bots, which we are talking about, could go to a depth that it can get so scalable that the information can reach to a larger set of audience. Technology, I believe very strongly, the power of technology is to democratize a lot of opportunities. So it is the eventual socializer, right? It will get down the difference between the haves and the have-nots. And you could see numerous examples in the past. And that's what this journey of AI is going to lead in different sectors, right? Be it taking a healthcare access to place where it is not otherwise there, or making legal and all the norms that was only available and restricted to those that have a lot of money to spend on lawyers, to making it available to pockets that needed it but could not afford it. Or we are going to talk a lot about it today, which is on finance, where we are using all of this to make sure we are deepening the pockets of credit, right? Otherwise, credit has been reaching to pockets that has only been traditionally reaching it. So those who get credit get more credit, and those who don't get credit never get credit. So that's what AI, or for that matter, any new technology is aiming at. At the end of it, it will democratize a lot of things, and it will lessen the divide for a larger group of people between the haves and the have-nots, and make certain things available and accessible for a lot of people, and hence raise the standard of living. So on that note, I would like to talk a little bit deeper into finance and where actively we are working on it. And also, of course, this is not just restricted to UB, but globally this is what is happening in this area. So finance itself has very, very broadly, at a broad brush stroke divided, has two components: liabilities and assets. Liabilities are, if you deposit to the bank, the deposits becomes the liabilities of the bank. It's an asset for you, but liability for the bank. And if a bank lends something to you, and that becomes an asset for the bank, right? Like, yeah, they have given the money and you have to owe the money back to them. So on the liabilities side, so we have things like, again, we'll divide this into retail, MSME, and corporate. So on the retail, like be it on onboarding, underwriting journey, etc., there is a lot of, so we will divide this in two parts. One on the sector, which is retail, MSME, and corporate, and vision, voice, text, and structured data. I have not put anything on the structured data because that's still out of LLM, so that's why I have not put anything on the structured data. On the unstructured data bit, on vision, voice, text, and videos at this point in time, there is a lot that's happening through language models, through AI in this space. On vision, there is a lot of documents that comes while processing the data, right? Like while processing a customer for a loan, You will be amazed to know, and you could also recollect, right? If you have taken a home loan, or if you have taken a personal loan, if you have taken a vehicle loan, the amount of documents even today that you give to a bank ranges from utility bills to rental agreements to everything. So a lot of work we are doing on that space. Voice is, and this is a constant thing that you would hear from a lot of people. Experience in India largely is voice, right? And it is an untapped potential because a lot of the things out there are still in English. They kind of work very well, including the latest version of DeepSeek, or any of the language models that keeps coming in. It works extremely well for English, but on local languages, it is coming up. It's not a ground zero we are talking about, but an area that it needs to get better at. But voice commerce, voice as a commerce engine in India is huge, and it's very untapped, right? How do we reach to the masses in tier 2, tier 3, in villages, in regional areas is a huge area to be cracked. ASRs, having said all of that, is not yet state of the art. There, the word error rates we are talking about are anywhere between 40 to 60%, whereas in English you would talk about a word error rate of, let's say, less than 15%, right? So that's the divide on this, and this with India LLMs going to come, the government having the AI initiative, I think a lot of these problems will get solved. But that's another area we are working on voice. And on the text, how do we kind of reach the customer? What is the onboarding, etc. Videos is another area where a large scale personalized at a segment level videos, can it reach the customer in different forms? So imagine a book of 10 lakh customers, each of them getting their own video in their own style. That's the other area that's opening up, both on things like lead generation as well as on collections. On the second two rows, which is MSME corporate, maybe many of you are not familiar with it. These are loans north of, let's say, 1 crore. It could even go up to 100 crores. How do these loans get decided has been very, very manual at this point in time. The language models with things like credit reports, able to make assessment with large-scale financial documents. So these are your annual reports, investor presentation, things like balance sheet, your bank statements that runs into thousands of pages. All of this, the play of AI is very high, and they feed into a credit decisioning. Then we have, on videos, especially two areas we are thinking very extensively is, are there ways to kind of summarize a board conversation that is happening, so that the listed companies who has to take notes on regular board meetings, etc., can get solved. Again, otherwise, even while companies are pitching for debt lending, which is not equity, they're not raising money with a bunch of VCs, but they are actually sending notes to the banks for raising a debt funding. In those cases also, can an entire investor pitch be made through LLM? So those are the possibilities that we are exploring. Some of these we have finished to a greater level, but some of these are work in progress. Some of these are pretty much ideas at this stage where we are starting to explore. On the asset side, which is your deposits and all of that, is application forms. There's a lot of form filling that again happens on savings and opening current and savings account, etc. A lot of those. Wealth advisory is another area which is very popular. Not only does it say whether you should buy or sell, but also take you through a lot of education process in making a decision. Again, the thing is, a lot of wealth in India at this point in time lies in tier 2, tier 3 cities. It's not so much in the urban. So how do you tap wealth advisory into the tier 2, tier 3 cities? And how can LLMs help in that journey? By educating, by conversing in local languages, are going to unlock a lot of possibilities. So we'll go a little bit deeper into the work we have done, and we'll show you some of the things that we have seen LLM standing out there. Some of these are hardcore LLMs. Some of these are some traditional OCR engine in case of vision, and then LLMs kind of applied on top of it. So we do from extraction, standardization, validation, verification, and analysis of the document. And LLMs predominantly play a role at the extraction level, standardization level, at analyzer level as well. Just example on the screen, you could see on the left, barely visible. Uh, Sorry? So you can just see on the screen the actual document and what LLMs could process from here with couple of lines of prompts on this. And we can do more than this, so I'll show you a few more examples on this one. This is straightforward, I know electricity bill, but the fact is we can classify which document type, what it is, and then kind of process a bunch of automatic fields. We are next step looking at, without much of an information about, at the maximum we could say what could be the document, but the whole layer of extraction and then standardizing and then verifying is where we are planning to take it to an agentic architecture. So this one is even more interesting. It's a little bit crumpled document, large, long documents, and lot of information out there, and then it is kind of extracting a lot. I'll show you something more. This is on there is Hindi on this, and then it kind of can translate and figure out. Where we are also going on is trying to figure out whether there is a seal and what is written inside the seal also, right? And that could give you a lot of validity of the documents. Like I said, this is a tip of the iceberg of what we are doing. We of course parse large scale bank statements also, and there things like token size and how long it takes, etc., largely comes into play. So it's a combination at this point in time, using a bunch of OCRs plus a language model on top of it. On the voice commerce bit, right? So we have this is an area that has been in work for a long time. If any of you have been following about conversations per se, you would know that in the US and in the West, conversations kind of started taking through chat, for example, right? These are your chat bots and everything. Many of you may be familiar, but in Indian context, text never took off, right? And even whatever took off in WhatsApp, if you see, a lot of this is just voice messages in WhatsApp that people are replying. So India is a huge, huge voice market, and this voice potential is lying in a lot of non-English speaking regions. And that's the challenge we are largely kind of addressing through our conversational engine. So of course we do a bunch of things. We do support 11 languages, top 11 languages in the country. Then we have human level voices. What we are trying to do here is making multi-turn conversations possible. So today conversations are in a voice bot somewhere between 3 to 4 turns at the maximum. Calls anywhere last between 30 seconds to a minute. We are trying to get these go further, possibly into the 1 minute to 3 minute bracket, where the LLMs can also guide you into a journey. For example, one of the interesting areas we are working is on how can it negotiate a settlement for a customer on the call. So let's say you've taken a credit card, you have a credit card due of, let's say, 5,000 rupees, and it's due for more than 180 days and the bank is calling for settlement. Can the bot kind of settle it, let's say, negotiate with you and say, pay 3,000 rupees and the rest we will waive you off, right? That's the angle we are kind of going in that, and this is where a lot of call center agents are also engaged, and this could be a precursor to a call center agent, or at some point in time can take the entire conversations on this. I don't know if this video will play. I'm not sure. Huh? You can play the first one. It is not going to play. Okay. So another time play the video. I'll play the video. But fundamentally, we are looking at voice on a lot of things, on being very persuasive. So far, conversational bots have been more about one-sided, flow-driven conversations, right? So I'll give you an example. Let's say the bot is calling someone to remind to pay. It will just give you the payment amount, how to pay, and then remind you to pay and move off, right? It is not going to push you to pay, which is very persuasive. So that's an area we are actively taking place in, where we are nudging the customer with multiple reasons that the customer should pay, otherwise this will be the consequences. Can hear objections from the customer. The customer, for example, says, hey, I have a medical problem and that's why I'm not able to pay. The bot can empathize with the customer, saying, it may be the right time to pay, although I understand your problems, etc. Or in extreme cases where the bot kind of realizes the customer is kind of giving some reason which is not making sense, can take a hard response at the customer as well, right? So those are conversations we are crafting. Now the thing with this is a lot can happen in a demo, right? A lot of demos are out there on conversational bots, on agentic, on conversational bots, etc. But we are at a scale, we do 1 crore voice bot calls a month, a conversational open speech conversational bots a month. And the nuances are very different when it comes to non-English language, or even in English. This is not very, whenever we see a lot of calls going into certain pockets, they understand English, but this is not your fluent English speaking segment, right? So they kind of understand parts of it. Some people realize it's a bot and yet talk to it, and some people kind of don't understand it's a bot. We often hear things like, Madam Ji, this is what I'm saying, and all of that, right? So we are talking to a very, very different demographic, which is for the first time seeing some of these language models in action, right? And at 1 crore calls a month, so we're seeing a lot of people across India with different kinds of responses to these voices. And we also kind of dial in for late stage collection buckets, which is your typical, somebody has defaulted a 1 lakh amount after 180 days of due. So they are in stress, because multiple people have already called them. Field visit is not yet happened, but it's at that stage of the journey. They are very stressed, they don't have money. So a lot of stress also kind of comes into the call, which we are training the bot to kind of handle those stressful situations. English in those itself is much more nuanced than what we see in the Western world. And if you go to much more deeper pockets, whether it is Marathi, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, they are very different behaviors, very different ways of saying no to a collection call, and then we take the conversation from there. And other interesting thing is, like when banks are disbursing the loans digitally, there is one confirmation call that goes in where a lot of customer profile is being again asked, right? So another area where bots are getting used is to understand whether this customer is going to pay one final check before I disburse. How do you answer these questions, whether you are answering these questions correctly, and what's your intent of kind of answering these questions? Do you have really are going to take this? Do you really need the loan for the reason that you have stated? What is the genuinity of the customer? That also is part of some of the work we do. Not only on the pure text in voice, but the tonality, the different features, the intonation that I see in a call also gives a lot of things about the customer. I'll give you an example. So if there's a call in which we're asking the customer, hey, are you going to pay, right? Then there are people who say, I will not pay. Then there are people who say, yes, I will pay, right? But then a bulk of segment lies in okay, right? Are you going to pay? The answer is okay, right? K, or they'll not respond. The second time you say okay, right? So those are your middle of the things where you don't know whether they're really going to pay. Most likely they're not going to, because the way they are responding to the bot also say something about them, right? Not only the words, but the way they say it, the pitch at which they say it, the decibel, all of that matters. So those also kind of go into the intelligence behind the scene on what happened in a call. So these are overall the components. Of course, some of this is kind of over a period of time will become agentic. There is a huge telephony that is there, which is your hard infrastructure that connects on to a cloud telephony. Then you have automatic speech recognition, which is your ASR, which is where our word error rates are still high, and you still need to manage these conversations. Then there are models, then there are workflows, and that workflows is what agentic is more or less going to replace and take it further. And then there is a text-to-speech, which is how you hear the voice, right? Whether it is human-like, non-human-like, all of that kind of come in here. Again, there are various experiments in text-to-speech, how much I pause, how much dramatic I am while saying, hey, you have to make a payment. Can I change the dramatization of the way I speak based on the customer segment that we are speaking to? Those kind of come into the components, and it's a moving part, right? The idea is to seek a goal. It could be converting a customer to buy, or it could be making a customer to pay, or it could be about explaining certain product features to the customer and making them make an action. So all of these parts make sure that there is an action that gets guaranteed. This is on the corporate side. I told you that there are credit reports that people write, which kind of run into multiple pages. So these could be 20-25 page reports that's written out of the box, from the LLMs. So I'll quickly show you an example. So these are private data. These are all unstructured data that we take, starting from bank statements, financial statement, borrowing profile, all of these documents. And these are again multi-page documents with multiple tables in each of those. And then we have public data that is available, and India is very rich in company information of public data. And both of these could come into a paragraph like this, right? Where you can see here annual report, MCA, all of this just getting into one paragraph. And imagine each of them is an unstructured document. And you can see the narration here. This is all written out of the box through a credit report, in the form of a credit report from an LLM. The consistent revenue growth can be attributed to several factors, including this. Additionally, the company's diversified portfolio, particularly in thermal generation, coal, hydro, and renewables, has played a crucial role in driving revenue, right? It is not only able to reconcile, enrich the data, but also kind of reason out things, right? Indicating, for example, in the other orange line, you can see the order book as of 31st March stands out, indicating a healthy pipeline of future projects, right? So these also, it kind of reasons out, adds adjectives where it needs to add, highlights a lot of things, and third-party rooftop segments during this bolster the company's growth prospects, right? It is able to nudge a credit advisor to make a decision from that perspective. So here we can see there is a case study. This is the input image we have, in which there is a lot of information about thermal. This is the investor presentation. This comes as a presentation, and then there is a bunch of images, the revenue growth of the company, etc. And then there is a writing rationale that gets published, right? This is human written. These two are human written. And whatever you're seeing on the down, so this image gets converted into a table with the financial numbers, etc. And with these two, there is a final commentary on financial performance, right? So that kind of also gets written automatically. So you can see that orange line that is written. Transmission and distribution remains the largest contributor, accounting for 58.83% of total revenue, with a growth of 4.85%. All of this commenting, including the percentages, commenting on driven by improved efficiencies in Odisha, etc. These are kind of comments that is coming from here on the table. This is our overall pipeline on this. We have structured data and unstructured data. and there is an ETL pipeline that goes through. There is a vision model which converts all of these into text or images, and for each of those sources, we have a RAG which stores all of this data, and then there is a retrieval, and then there is an inference pipeline. We also use for each of these, so let's say a financial report will have like 15 to 20 sections. Each of the section will have certain set of questions to be answered, and those kind of get into the RAG, and you get those statements through the LLM. And finally, there is an eval engine and a commentary that comes out of it. So we use a set of vision models. Some of these are through LLMs itself. Some of them are set of OCR, so paddle OCR, or that PyPlum PDF that is there. Plus we use, like I said, a regular LLM to also extract some of these, a multimodal LLM to extract this. We have tried. So where we are trying with human written text, see if it's, let's say human written text is there, it's a single page thing. It can very well extract at this point in time. What it is not able to extract is medical prescription, for example. That's a little out of bounds, and that is something we are trying. I want to keep that as a North Star and try that. But other than that, it is able to extract. But the challenge here is the tables, right? So the financial tables have hierarchical structure to it. Certain cells will be merged, certain cells will not be merged. Same type of document, like annual report itself is not in same format. Each annual report can run to 50 to 100 pages, right? And then each of them is of very different nature. Those are what we take a lot of time to standardize, and this is where the pipelines are largely built around. So we are using a combination of llamas as well as GPT-4o. That's what we are using. Of course, with DeepSeek, we will have to start a lot of experimentation on that. On the OCR side, again, we are using a lot of things like I was saying, paddle OCR or doctr on this, etc. There is a lot of unstruct is another one that we are using. So there are a lot of explosion of OCRs out there, which was earlier only between Textract and Tesseract, to a lot more OCRs at this point in time that out there that we are leveraging. Yeah, let me, maybe I will talk about it because a lot is being talked on this area. These are voice LLMs, voice in to voice out. You give a voice input and do that. See, that is still not at a great stage at this point in time. I'll give you a few examples, right? This is a bot calling a customer, taking few seconds of the customers, right? And you cannot go grammatically wrong in that call, nor can you hallucinate or anything. These are all microseconds things that is happening while you're speaking on the phone call. So we can't afford any kind of inaccuracies, any kind of hallucinations in a voice call. So unless otherwise the technology is absolutely perfect, will not be able to take it. My view on the voice in, voice out is English, it is maybe there some bit of it, again not very correct, etc. There is no way you can even touch Indian English with that voice and voice out models that is out there. We cannot touch any of the Indian languages. So the way we do this is there is an ASR, then ASR becomes text, then text gets into an LLM that generates another text, and then that goes into a TTS, and then that goes back to the telephony. This is the architecture we use.
Are you guys using the intent of the voice, like the emotion in the voice, as an analysis through LLM?
Not while in the bot. We have a separate product in which we are doing, so we do post call on that, like how well you talked, whether you engaged well or not, what's the decibel level, what is, how did you answer that question, what are the pitch and frequency of all of that goes post call analysis. While in the call, to take the sentiment of the user and then answer, in text it is happening, but not with voice features at this point in time. However, on the TTS side, while it is playing it back, so let us say some user said, hey, I've just, the person who had to pay the card is dead, he's no more, right? Now, while the bot is speaking back, there we are introducing empathy in the voice also. through pitch and some of those features that we can vary. But not understanding somebody is angry to somebody, that we have not yet cracked.
As you mentioned, the challenge of hierarchies in tables, like the structured documents. Which competitors have you explored? Competitor products or products which offer solution to this problem?
So we are offering the solution, so we are not taking any competitors.
Why not take competitors and
Now
give
let
them?
me tell you where, how, correct. So where I am saying where we are using a lot of an ecosystem things are at the OCR and at the parsing level, while which is open source and available, etc. Where we are using a tons of OCR there. Where we are kind of doing our own bit is we also have our own OCR. So we have a bunch of OCR engines through which then we ensemble an approach and then we put it into language model.
My concern is, what is the competitor analysis which you have done
Sure.
for the competitors whose this is actually a major challenge, like whose like whose primary is to process tables, tables in the documents, printed or some sort, and they contain hierarchical information. So I'm asking about the competitor analysis. That feature
So
will target.
I'll tell you our competitors more. So we are not releasing another OCR in the market, right?
Obviously,
Yeah. So we are not competing with those people who are great in parsing tables. We are competing with those people who are applying some of these things in the market. So for example, when we talk about bank statement analysis, there are competitors at bank statement analysis level. Or when we are talking about we will apply our OCR and LLMs and we will extract documents and verify, there are competitors there. At an application level, we have competitors, which is what we closely monitor and watch. At a, at a foundation level, we are opting in a lot of players at this point in time.
okay, so there are competitors at a different.
At the application level, yes, we have a lot of competition. On the bank statement, yes, because that's a mature product. But other products, things like what I was showing you, land records, rental agreements, getting the seal in the rental agreement, etc. At that level of application, not that we know big competition that exists. Some of these are also unique, which is why we are co-building this with a lot of banks in the country. So we know the scarcity of competition at that level. But certain well-defined products, there is good amount of competition, like let's say financial statements or bank statements. But this product that is there on the screen, which is taking all of these OCRs, writing a report, etc., again, not established competition at this point in time.
So, hi.
We'll take the questions post the session because due to time constraint, let Mathangi finish her sessions, then I think you'll be able to get your answers correctly. I know it's a very interesting workshop, guys, but hold on to your questions.
Sure, sure. No, I think that was the last slide, so we anyway can take some more questions.
So I have a question.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
I was asking like, what is the benefit of having this model pipeline, which is like fine-tuning model
Huh.
and inference pipeline between, as you are already getting like your documents from a RAG pipeline. What is the benefit of having an inference pipeline, a model pipeline between the LLM and a RAG documents?
So see, we build a RAG structure for each of the sets of our document structures are very different, right? Each of the document in itself runs to multiple pages, each type of document. So that's why we have a RAG for each type of document, because I cannot standardize the output structures of, let's say, an annual report to a bank statement, right? So hence each of them are separate RAG. At the inference level, which is where I'm saying I'm asking certain questions about the ratios of the company and things like that, the inference pipeline are in one section. I could have data from multiple RAGs coming into it. That's why it's a single inference pipeline on that. Multiple RAGs and one LLM inference pipeline.
So getting multiple documents and adding a prompt to it and going to Llama, this will be better than that, you're saying?
See, you will have a huge problem on context window, number one, right? We have tried that quite amount of times, which is why we have done enough work on RAGs, on the tokenization within the RAGs and what works, what is the retrieval works, etc. The context of each of these documents is very huge, right? And it significantly increases our time to process, etc. also.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I have a question. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not able to see. Yeah, please go ahead.
So You would receive many types of documents where, like the Excels, where you would have more than 1,000 rows, and also PDFs, which would have tables which are running around for, say, 10 pages. So, when you are passing the data to LLM, how are you kind of like processing those kind of documents?
Yeah, see, one, if there are multiple Excels and they are standard, we are also pass that into a DB and take information, a structured DB.
Okay.
The other is the classic way, which is convert this into a JSON, pass this as a context into the model and get it. Another way is possibly read that Excel into blocks of text and then process into it.
Okay.
If it is set of standard Excels, then we could pump it into a DB and then you're not reading that during the inferencing time. But if it is not, that is not possible, each Excel is going to be different, then pass that as a JSON.
Okay. And what about PDFs? If there's a table
PDF
running
that
for
I'm not just telling the name right, that the Plum PDF LLM, right? That one works very well. Not PDF Plumber. There is one which is called, you can look at it, PyMuff PDF. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that one refers, reads the text with as blocks and maintains some of the bold and some of the indentation of the paragraph. So that works out very well.
If there's a table present in a PDF which
Yeah.
is, say, running for 5
Correct,
pages,
correct.
then how do you pass it on to the LLM? Because the retaining a table structure and also giving the table headers to the next continuous
No, agreed,
pages.
agreed. That's a fair problem. There are various techniques. See, one, use a PDF parser which is good at reading tables and then take the table separately, which identifies it as a table, and then parse it to the LLM.
Okay.
Where it is running in table running into multiple pages, column names in previous page and the column names are not coming in the next page is a well recognized problem. We try some level of prompting to capture the column in the previous page and populate it to the next page. That's where we are at. At some level, taking this into a RAG and keeping it as a loosely connected thing and then using most of the power during retrieval is making a difference as well. So I am kind of summarizing a table, or I'm throwing an answer out from a table. So in those cases, just loosely storing that into a RAG and then using that to retrieve what I want out of the table is making a difference. But agreed. So some cases we have tried passing the entire document. Some cases we have to break. There is no other way because of the context window. So there we do a lot of patch kind of techniques to do this.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah, so valid point on the, so when we see, we have been working on just the credit report problem for 1.5 years. Voice, we are working even more than that. On the credit report problem itself, we have kind of tried a lot of things. Initially, right, we started this journey from Mosaic. Now Mosaic has released something better, but the accuracies were very bad. Arithmetic accuracies were very bad. So that time we used to pre-compute these ratios and pass it. But now with GPT-4o and some of the other LLMs, the calculation is not that bad, right? We have seen it actually computing CAGR correctly, and a bunch of calculations are coming out correctly. Of course, you need to pass the right data set into it, that right paragraph, and prompt that right, then it is able to compute as well. It has come way far from where we started out on this. Earlier, we used to pre-compute ratios. Now it is doing its bit, so we are not kind of hard coding some of these.
Yeah, and you said like you are using processing the documents.
Yeah.
So if you see that stamps and all extraction,
Correct.
most of the stamps are not completely like stamped.
Correct.
So when you are extracting, how are you retrieving? Are you using any image enhancement techniques? Or
So
how are
see,
you
some level of region of interest we find,
Yeah.
and from there we take, and then so it is a combination of OCR and LLM, right? So region of interest we find, and then we get the section of it, and then we pass that to an LLM.
You are using
It's not
any
a
object detection technique
Huh,
on top of
correct, correct. And it's not also a straightforward problem, having said way the stamps are. See, if everything is structured, anything can be done, right?
And
Real-
how are you following the entity relationship? Because in the documents, most of the entities play a crucial role to understand the relationship between the value and the numeric.
Correct.
So the LLMs cannot do it. So
Some,
are you using
the
any
electricity bill I showed you,
That
right?
is a template.
No, that's not a template. That's actual electricity bill.
No, that's a template of bill. So the values will never change. The position will never
Ha,
change.
ha.
But you are talking about a financial document.
Correct,
So
correct, correct.
it will say public or a private. So if you say like a public document, that is still okay. If a private document, that's not a template. It will not follow a structure.
No, no, no. Let me clarify on the electricity bill also and answer your question on this. Even well-used things like bank statements largely don't follow a template. There is a new template every day between every bank, etc. Take annual reports, absolutely there is no template. And add to it hierarchical tabular column structure, right? Table within a table. All of this is happening. So in one type of document of the same category, you'll not have this, another type of document will have it. We are using LLMs on this. In terms of entity, there is some level of things as context goes in the prompt. So none of this, we are only working with the data scientists in the team. There is a CA, there is a financial analyst who kind of helps us to consolidate the information. That's why this product is also, when we go to the market, it's kind of standing out because there's a lot of financial text and information that we feed into the LLMs that is coming out of it. We did try some level of small language model and fine tuning of it, but our maximum success has come in somewhere between RAGs and prompting and kind of making multiple RAGs, making the prompts more effective, finding out the right LLMs and the right OCR. This is where we have found the optimal mix.
Okay, so it's like you will generate the draft and the final review will be done with a human.
Uh, we are at this point in time doing a final review by the human. No, I didn't mean the financial analyst as the last leg. I meant the financial analyst is whom we are even building the prompts with. So if we are writing a paragraph, like whatever I showed you, is written with inputs from a financial person, right? A CA sits with us to do this. And then it becomes better. That's how, so our prompts are much more intelligent than just somebody without any financial knowledge writing it. So we are loaded with financial knowledge in a lot of these. And that's also solving some of the tabular problem that you are saying, because that also, we are adding some bit of prompts other than OCR and all of this. That's possible. Roughly, I would say that's how we are solving it.
Yeah, one question here. So since you're working with the BFSI industry, and there are a lot of concerns around using AI-based solution, LLMs, especially on the data security, privacy concerns. So what are those concerns that you're facing from these customer banks? What kind of adoption that you are seeing, and how you are addressing those challenges?
Yep, I have a 20 years of career, right? I've never seen adoption of AI at this level that I'm seeing. There's a huge, huge ask for AI solutions. We are not able to serve the incoming need. That's where we are at. Especially the report that I showed you, which is a multi-page, 15-page report that we write, which a CA in a bank is writing. They are even open to replace those kind of things with LLMs. They want to adopt it. Questions, of course, happens on-prem versus cloud, your own VPC versus VPC at our side. How is the data going into, let's say, GPT-4, or how is Azure treating it? What are the policies on Azure? So we are working a lot with their legal to make sure this happens. But from the business user side of the banks, there is huge welcome and a huge adoption of this technology. Never seen before. That's the situation at this point in time.
Hello.
Hi.
So my question is basically, in the first part you mentioned that you are having that AI conversational chatbots so that the user will like give back the debt. So in that case, my question is like, what will happen, like, because in finance there's a lot of regulations, and you cannot afford for a LLM to hallucinate in that case. So are you keeping any human in the loop, or will it be better to just make LLM assess the customer support rather than completely replacing that?
No, so a good question. It depends on which use case you pick up, right? If I'm going to nudge you to make a payment, as long as LLMs are not hallucinating, it's not a problem. But at this point in time, you can guide it to a greater level where it is not hallucinating. It doesn't hallucinate. In fact, we tell it to answer no question other than whatever is relevant. Things like unharmful questions also, like what is the distance between Kormangala and HSR? Though it can answer, we tell don't entertain any of those questions. And anytime the user becomes borderline abusive, cut the call, right? So those are things we definitely bake into it, and it is not, that's where bots are very different to, very difficult than what it is seen in the demo. There is a lot of nuances. There is a customer experience at play. There is a context. There is a client for which there is a regulatory body, right? You need to operate within all of this. We do massive testing. on any bot that we develop and everything. So we do automated testing, and then we have LLMs to judge those responses and things like that. Hence, what I have not seen it has not crossed the line. In fact, we do a lot of work on human conversations also, human to human conversations. You will be surprised the amount of abuse and filth those conversations have. It happens in banks today with a lot of late stage bucket conversations. Both of them cross the line, both the customer and the agents cross the line while talking with each other. It happens there, but not in the bots. So I tell a lot of banks that if you want your conversations to be more human, take a bot. So that's where we are at.
Yeah, hi. My question is regarding the validity of these legal documents,
Sure.
right? So one part is I can go anywhere, I can make a document, but there will be some signature and all. So is there some way you are verifying all those things as well?
Yeah, so in the document parsing, we do few things, okay? One, extraction, then to see whether the document is valid, whether the document was fudged or not. Then is the content of the document valid? I'm again talking about financial documents, right? Let's say in your bank statement, you are 1 lakh amount.
In this case, not bank statement, but you were showing some lease agreement.
Correct, correct, correct.
Yeah.
I just gave you an example of content validation, right? Let's take lease agreement.
Yeah.
In that, there should be multiple, lessor, lessee, their addresses, their PAN card should be mentioned. All of those parameters we collect from the banks to see what should be there. So that's the validation. That is a content validation. Prior to it, we see document validation, whether this PDF, if it is a PDF, is that kind of fudged? Is there an author change? Is there a change in the meta information, etc.? Then we do content validation. Finally, we do a verification. So let us say properties in certain state governments are also listed. So you can actually check whether this property document is true, whether indeed this person has this property document, etc. Wherever possible, we add it through a verification layer. So this is how we ensure that document that was once scanned by a human goes through goes through this entire AI without a problem. And where we cannot, we say this is something we don't know, so you have a human in the loop.
And one more question. You were mentioning about voice. So India is a very diverse country. Every 200 kilometer you go, there will be a different dialect.
Correct.
You will see.
Correct.
So how do you deal with that?
See, I have not even gone to the level of dialect. So we are being very truthful to what we are doing. I'm targeting top 11 languages in the country plus English. This is what we are at this point in time targeting, right? Not even have a stack for Tulu or Konkani or Maithili and things like that. I would want to get into it because we are doing business in those pockets as well. So dialects is far away for me, but the conversation is happening, right? People do understand whatever the bot is saying. The bot needs to understand the dialect. That is the challenge, which is where as an entire ecosystem, we are very weak in automated speech recognition. We have started a initiative with AI for Bharat with Professor Mitesh Kapra, where we are going to train for conversations in India and launch an open source model. So the first one will come in the next 1 or 2 months on Hindi, then it will take it further.
Hey, thank you.
I have one question.
Yeah, which,
please here.
sorry.
Excuse me. Yeah, front.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, it's really good to see so many discussion on the solution approach and the way explanation is happening, and also what I'm hearing is that going forward, apart from human recovery agents, we have to deal with bot agents as well to recover all those things, right? That's what my understanding. These things are like a taking space, right? Like you call, or maybe you call to them and get the answers, or maybe ask them to payment, or maybe you do analysis and all those things. Is there anything work happening towards a giving, like a giving to the social? Like for example, now Gen Zs or millennials is there, and there are so many employees are getting into the emotions, support required and all those things, right? So in those space I'm seeing so many opportunities there, because most of in India, especially India, I'm not sure in all the world as well, that is much required wherever the support is, because I am seeing disconnection in the humans rather than the machines, right? Now, if you see the adaptability of the machines is more compared to the humans, and that connection, is there anything which you guys are, I mean, you have any plan on that, or is there anything which we can do?
So your question is people in distress,
Yeah, yeah.
they need support,
Support
etc.
those in employees as well as in Gen Zs, because nowadays people are very engaged to the machines, not the
Correct.
humans. They don't get a support.
We
in
are
a way.
not doing, but I know a lot of work that's happening. In fact, interestingly, the chatbot's concept itself originates with a bot called as Eliza in the 1950s, where it was a bot which is acting as a psychologist, I think, right? That's where it started. So this is a very active area. A lot of work is happening. Out of the box LLMs, the challenge is if you tell suicide or something like that, it'll not process, right? So that's the problem. Of course, there are people write about jailbreaks and all of these on these LLMs also. But this is an active area that is being, worked on. Maybe because of all of this, and SLMs could make fine-tuned models or small language models very specifically for therapy and distress and how do you handle, could make a difference here. We are not working on it, but we have heard quite a bit of it. And your point is what my understanding, only on voice commerce I have 10 years of experience. I can tell you the point that you said, which is humans are more open to machines in certain situations than what they are open to humans. We see that in collections as well, but this is truth, right? There's a lot of research that's proven this, and it's a great area that LLMs can transform. Not mainstream successes I've heard of it yet. I know this is under research, but yes, this is an area that could unlock again a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, that's what I mean. There's so many social, companies or maybe organizations happening, but there is no support for that.
Correct.
We can enable using these kind of technology. We can enable
absolutely.
that. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah. So LLM eval works like this. So the report gets generated. So at section level, we have, let's say a report has 25 sections. Each section, there is an eval. And the eval, if it fails, it will send it back to the LLM to regenerate. So that is happening. Then now we are building report level eval. So after the report is done, because many sections of the report could be connected to each other. So we are trying to use LLM eval and then send it back and then reconcile and then put a report out. That we are doing. LLM eval in voice is very tough for me to do because I don't have the latency limitation. So there I'll have to live with what is coming in. But definitely on documents, on reports which are async process, we are using massive eval. After this, right, wherever we know there are definite rules, this is how you should evaluate, this should reconcile with this, we have automated those rules as well.
Yeah, there was a question related to the same. For the eval engines, what are the key metrics that you have considered for evaluation of the whole? That is a report level also and the voice.
Agreed. So there are a bunch of metrics. We are not per se going on metrics. What we are asking the LLM to evaluate on a bunch of parameters which is very applicable to that use case, right? So we tell things like, arithmetic accuracy of certain ratios in it. Whether it is talking about if it is reconciling between two sources, did it reconcile well? Is the statement that it is making, is it valid or not? Is the adjective that it is used make sense or not? So that is how we are evaluating at this point.
Is it a data set that you have created for
No,
the
it's not nothing to do with ground truth. It is we are using LLM's wisdom only to evaluate a section that it is done. We can't do ground truth in this. There is so many reports and so many things, and we get only samples to build any of this. So we are far away from doing anything on ground truth. But the LLM's knowledge, we feed the LLM with parameters and then it says, yes or no to it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
So what is the volume your clients need of pricing?
The different services, we do different pricing, of course.
Who can afford, because there is a cost, right?
Yeah, so see, I'll tell you, a human agent costs per call 27 rupees. Right? I am not at anywhere closer to that level when it comes to a bot. I'm way lesser than that. So it's a matter of, where the trade-off lies. And if it is actually good in conversion and, per, let's say, per loan paid, you get 5,000 rupees, then You have huge margin to play here. That's how this works. Like, let's say an analyst takes 2 to 3 weeks to write a report. With LLMs, it is coming out in few minutes. Even if I put a human in the loop, I'm talking about few hours. So that's the advantage. That's the arbitrage we have. So tokens, etc., becomes a smaller cost for us.
Yeah.
Per unit basis. In case of report, is per unit. In case of calls, it's per connected call.
I have one question here, this side.
This side, yeah.
Yeah. So two questions. One is, I think, similar to the security or regulatory aspects of using AI in BFSI, right? So whatever the report you generate, it can be biased based on the sex, region, or age,
Correct.
right? So you have to be very careful how you are handling or how are you planning to explain it to the regulatory bodies, right? So while taking the bot response as a final report,
Correct.
right? That's one question, yeah.
Sure. So just on that question, scores, I'm not touching with LLMs at all.
Yeah.
Right? I'm largely doing the classic machine learning with classic explainability on top of it, out of time and all of that validation. Top features get printed and then we eliminate bias. And wherever we have to debias, there are debiasing algorithms. That's what we do. On the reports, right, or on voice, there can be some biases, etc., depending on what we train. That is a lot of guidance at this point in time. On explainability, bit of it on reports. So each section it writes, we will be able to give a citation to it. So that explains. That level explanation we give. Beyond that, how is it saying this is a cause for this revenue increase? We are not gone to that level of explainability. Human in the loop is there while developing it, and in some cases post development.
Okay, got it. The second one is on the data you have, right? You have a lot of data. So are you restricting it to providing this service, or you're trying to build a credit models also on top of it?
Credit, see, we cannot store anyone's data or process someone's data into it. We are a marketplace kind of entity. We build it for the banks in their ecosystem. We provide tools so that they can build their own model.
Okay,
that's how we operate.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, hi.
Anyone?
This.
Yeah.
Thanks for the session. So I have one question. I see there are hybrid kind of where you are managing some of the LLMs like Llama by yourself, and some are very self-managed by cloud service providers.
Correct.
So in that case, and there are many other components like OCR and other things coming into picture. So what is your AI ops management strategy, and specifically on the traceability and the observability, because there are a lot of components getting stitched together.
Correct.
Yeah, if you could share some information on that.
So it's a hybrid model, like you're saying, and whichever works, whatever, we are kind of doing it. In terms of A/B experiments or which model did well, etc., we have not yet cracked observability entirely from that perspective. We have observability at this point in time, which API used, which model cost, and what it is the cost. In terms of more things on drift, etc., we have not gotten into the unstructured world of LLMs. But you are right, we are at this point in time using a hybrid model of open source, self-deployed, open source but deployed by a cloud provider, completely premium, enterprise licensed LLM. So all of this we are using. Similarly on OCRs, through a API call, through deployed OCRs, etc., we are using at this point in time. We are at this point in time making sure governance is through the human in the loop layer, governance is through out of time tests and all of that. Governance through observability is an area that we are exploring, not yet there.
And are you adopting any specific frameworks for this, or you are?
No, we are exploring some of the frameworks for AI models, especially in the LLMs area. We have just started exploring a few frameworks on this. That's where we are going. But a lot of what we build, because these are banks that are buying it, we are very careful about it, which is why there is a lot of padding on out of time, sample testing, multiple sample testing, multiple calls testing, and human in the loop with CAs, etc., looking at the reports. That's how we are doing it. We want to move this method into a proper, well-recognized AI framework. That's the journey we are in.
Okay, thanks for saying.
Hi, actually I have a question on LLM eval. So you have unstructured data which is being extracted. So do you have a layer which is evaluating the kind of extraction which the model has done?
Point taken. We have, so we call it HITL system, but it is not humans per se. What that system does is, it does basic checks on what you extracted is indeed what is there, right? So opening balance, closing balance, is it matching? Is the number of transactions making sense in this? If it's an annual report, is the revenues matching with whatever is reported in MCA? That level of checks we are doing a validation layer, and then it passes, then the LLM eval happens. So prior to LLM eval, there are rules that is also evaluating what got extracted automatically.
So that's basically from the OCR extraction which is being like evaluated, or you're creating a ground truth, or you're creating a ground truth for LLM?
Without ground truth, but rules, right? So rules are the truth here. So your opening balance and closing balance logic that I said is a rule that we have kind of created on this, right? If let us say spent 500 rupees, your balance was 5,000 rupees, and now 5,000 minus 500, 4,500 rupees should be your outstanding. This is a rule we create.
Yes.
So, and these rules are not ground truth data, but these are rules written by experts, or these are rules learnt by the LLMs, validated by experts. That also gives us a lot of cushion to know whether our OCR is right.
Okay. So on the point that the rules are learned by LLMs, also are you fine tuning the models based on those rules, or you're just
No,
using
we
the
are
wisdom of
generating more rules based on the existing set of rules. That's where we are at. Fine tuning, like I said, our experiment was largely restricted to initial version of Mosaic, and then we moved more application and prompting at this point in time. Now we may be considering for some of the use cases, because we are in deep financial context at this point in time. So we are exploring at very early stage of thinking of fine tuning or building an SLM on its own.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot, everyone. Been a great session talking to you. Hope I addressed what I could address and said no where I had to say no. So thanks a lot. Thank you.